Remember the meals your grandparents made when the cupboard was almost empty? You might remember the smell, even if you've forgotten the name. Pea soup stretched across 3 days, bread pudding from yesterday's leftovers, meals that didn't have recipes, just hands that knew what to do. Nobody wrote them down, nobody thought they'd ever be forgotten. These 30 meals kept Canadian families alive through the hardest times this country's ever seen, and most of them, they're almost completely gone now. One of them was so basic, families wouldn't even serve it to guests, but it kept millions alive. Let's bring them back. Jiggs' dinner came from Newfoundland kitchens where mothers created something that spread across the whole country. Salt beef boiled slow with potatoes, turnips, carrots, and cabbage. Nothing fancy, just what she had. The whole kitchen filled with that warm smell that meant family was coming home. The texture was soft and tender. Everything melted together on your plate. Kids loved picking out the carrots. Each bite tasted like love and survival mixed together. Grandmas in Newfoundland made this, and soon families everywhere wanted to make it too. From coast to coast, people loved this meal. Jiggs' dinner saved families through hard times. It proved that one simple dish could bring everyone together and keep them alive. Split pea soup came from Quebec kitchens where mothers stretched every penny. Yellow split peas boiled slowly with ham hock made something warm and thick. Nothing wasted. Every part of the ham helped feed the family. The soup bubbled on the stove, filling homes with comfort. The texture was smooth and creamy that warmed your belly from inside. Kids loved the way it stuck to their spoons. Each spoonful meant survival during cold winters. Mothers added onions and carrots when they could. Grandmas made big pots that lasted days. From Quebec to everywhere, families loved this soup. Split pea soup kept people alive when times got hard. It was proof that patience and simple things could save everyone. Tourtière came from French-Canadian kitchens where mothers made meat pies for families, ground pork and beef mixed with onions and spices wrapped in pastry crust. Nothing fancy, just good food. The whole kitchen smelled like home and safety. The texture was warm and savory that melted on your tongue. Kids loved opening the pie to see the filling inside. Each bite connected them to their roots and their grandmothers. Mothers in Quebec created this, and it spread everywhere across Canada. Families gathered for Tourtière on special days and hard days. From coast to coast, people loved this pie. Tourtière saved families and kept traditions alive. It proved that love baked into food could change everything forever. Navy bean soup came from Maritime kitchens where mothers used dried beans as meat. Dried navy beans boiled slowly with water, and salt made something filling and cheap. Nothing wasted because beans were life. The pot bubbled for hours, filling the kitchen with hope. The texture was soft and creamy that stuck to your ribs. Kids loved the beans that tasted like earth and survival. Each bowl meant another day the family made it through. Mothers stretched one bag of beans across the whole week. Grandmas knew navy beans could feed 10 people for pennies. From Halifax to everywhere, families loved this soup. Navy bean soup kept people alive during the Depression. It was proof that poor could eat good. Codfish and brewis. Codfish and brewis came from Maritime kitchens where the ocean gave everything. Dried salt cod soaked and boiled with hard bread pieces made something special. Nothing fancy, just fishing village food. The whole kitchen smelled like salt and sea. The texture was flaky and soft, mixed with chewy bread that held it together. Kids loved tasting the ocean in every bite. Each meal connected families to the water and their ancestors. Mothers in Newfoundland and Nova Scotia made this for generations. Grandmas knew this dish kept fishermen strong and families alive. From the Atlantic coast everywhere, people loved codfish and brewis. It saved maritime families through storms and hard winters. It was proof that the sea could feed everyone who respected it. Economy. Meat pie came from Alberta kitchens where mothers stretched leftover meat far. Any leftover meat mixed with vegetables and cream sauce wrapped in pastry. Nothing wasted because waste meant hunger. The kitchen filled with warm smells of survival. The texture was savory and creamy that melted into the crust. Kids loved finding meat pieces in every bite. Each pie meant mothers were clever and resourceful. Grandmas made pies from scraps that tasted like fancy food. From ranches to cities, families loved this pie. Economy meat. Pie proved that nothing had to be thrown away. It saved families money during desperate times. It was proof that creativity and love made poor food taste like treasure. Peas pudding came from Newfoundland kitchens where yellow split peas became tradition. Yellow split peas boiled smooth and formed into pudding shaped like bread. Nothing fancy, just simple survival. The kitchen filled with the smell of boiling peas for hours. The texture was smooth and thick like butter that melted on your tongue. Kids loved the yellow color that meant Jiggs' dinner was almost ready. Each spoonful tasted like home and Sunday dinners together. Mothers served peas pudding beside Jiggs' dinner on every important meal. Grandmas knew this pudding stretched the meal further and filled more bellies. From Newfoundland everywhere, people loved this pudding. Peas pudding saved families and kept them together. It was proof that simple could be beautiful and delicious. Bread pudding came from Ontario kitchens where mothers never wasted old bread. Hard, stale bread soaked in milk and eggs and sugar made dessert magic. Nothing thrown away because everything had value. The kitchen is filled with cinnamon and sweet smells. The texture was soft and custard-like that dissolved in your mouth. Kids loved the brown sugar sauce poured hot over pudding. Each bite felt like a treat when treats were rare. Mothers transformed leftover bread into something kids begged for. Grandmas made bread pudding for Sunday dinners and celebrations. From farms to cities, families loved this pudding. Bread pudding proved that waste could become treasure. It saved families money and brought joy. It was proof that love made everything taste good. Casserole of baked corn and eggs came from prairie kitchens, where mothers fed families cheap. Canned corn and hard-boiled eggs layered with breadcrumbs and milk. Nothing fancy, just eggs and corn making a meal. The kitchen filled with warm, comforting smells. The texture was creamy and savory that held together perfectly. Kids loved finding eggs hidden in the corn layers. Each bite tasted like home and safety. Mothers stretched a dozen eggs across big families. Grandmas made this when meat was impossible to buy. From Saskatchewan to everywhere, families loved this casserole. It kept families alive on almost nothing. Casserole of baked corn and eggs was proof that two cheap things could save everyone. It was proof that mothers were angels. Surprise baked potatoes came from Manitoba kitchens where mothers got creative with potatoes. Big potatoes are baked and scooped out and filled with liver sauce inside. Nothing fancy, just liver and potatoes making survival food. The kitchen filled with savory smells for hours. The texture was fluffy inside and filled with creamy sauce. Kids loved the surprise of opening the potato to find filling inside. Each potato became a whole meal for one person. Mothers used liver because it was cheap and full of strength. Grandmas knew liver kept families healthy when times were hard. From prairies everywhere, families loved this simple trick. Surprise baked potatoes saved families and stretched meat far. It was proof that creativity turned poor into good. It was proof that mothers knew how to survive. Mushroom roly-poly came from Canadian kitchens where mothers made leftovers fancy. Biscuit dough, rolled with minced leftover meat and mushrooms inside. Nothing wasted because every piece mattered. The kitchen is filled with warm bread smells. The texture was soft dough wrapped around savory filling that tasted rich. Kids loved the spiral pattern when mothers cut it open. Each slice felt special even though it was made from scraps. Mothers rolled and baked this when they had nothing else. Grandmas made roly-poly for Sunday suppers that stretched budgets far. From coast to coast, families loved this simple roll. Mushroom roly-poly proved leftovers could taste fancy. Vegetable loaf came from Canadian kitchens where mothers mixed vegetables and peas. Split peas soaked overnight mixed with diced potatoes and tomato juice made meals. Nothing fancy, just vegetables becoming a main dish. The kitchen is filled with earthy vegetable smells. The texture was firm and hearty that sliced clean and stayed together. Kids loved the way it looked like real meatloaf, but tasted different. Each slice meant stretching food to feed more people. Mothers pressed this into pans and baked it slowly. Grandmas knew vegetable loaf fed families when meat was gone. From everywhere, families loved this loaf. Vegetable loaf proved vegetables could be filling and important. Hasty pudding came from Canadian kitchens where mothers made fast desserts. Cornmeal boiled with water and milk, and sugar made warm pudding. Nothing expensive, just what every kitchen had. The kitchen is filled with sweet cornmeal smells. The texture was smooth and thick that warmed your belly fast. Kids loved the yellow color and the warmth. Each spoonful felt like a treat when treats were rare. Mothers made this on cold nights when families needed comfort. Grandmas knew pudding could end meals on good notes. From everywhere, families loved this pudding. Hasty pudding proved simple cornmeal could become something special. It saved families from thinking about hard times. Economy. Pudding came from Canadian kitchens where mothers made desserts from flour. Flour and raisins and baking powder mixed with brown sugar sauce. Nothing wasted because raisins were sweet enough. The kitchen filled with nutmeg and brown sugar smells. The texture was soft cake floating in hot brown sauce. Kids loved the warm pudding poured over everything hot. Each spoonful tasted like luxury when luxury was impossible. Mothers baked this in quick ovens for Sunday treats. Grandmas made economy pudding for special days that had to be special. From everywhere, families loved this pudding. Economy. Pudding proved few ingredients could make joy. It saved families from despair during hard times. It was proof that mothers knew how to create magic from nothing. Potato soup came from prairie kitchens where mothers fed families with just potatoes. Potatoes and onions boiled in water with milk and butter. Nothing fancy, just what grew in gardens. The kitchen is filled with warm potato and onion smells. The texture was creamy and thick that stuck to your ribs. Kids loved the simple taste that felt safe. Each bowl meant survival through another cold winter day. Mothers stretched one sack of potatoes across weeks of meals. Grandmas knew potato soup kept families from starving. From Saskatchewan to everywhere, families loved this soup. Potato soup proved one vegetable could feed everyone. It saved families during the Depression and hard times. Cabbage and dumplings came from Maritime kitchens where mothers made filling meals. Shredded cabbage boiled with flour dumplings dropped on top. Nothing wasted because cabbage lasted forever. The kitchen is filled with vegetable and boiling smells. The texture was soft cabbage and chewy dumplings that held everything together. Kids loved pulling apart warm dumplings with spoons. Each bowl meant a full belly that lasted hours. Mothers made this when money was completely gone. Grandmas knew dumplings could make any meal feel bigger. From Newfoundland everywhere, families loved this simple dish. Cabbage and dumplings proved two things could feed families. It saved people during desperate hunger times. Creamed chipped beef on toast came from Canadian kitchens where mothers stretched meat. dried salted beef, shredded fine and cooked in white cream sauce on bread. Nothing wasted because every scrap of meat mattered. The kitchen is filled with savory and creamy smells. The texture was tender beef pieces in thick sauce, soaking into soft toast. Kids loved the salty meat taste that felt fancy. Each bite made them feel like they were eating well. Mothers served this for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Grandmas made this SOS when regular food ran out, from coast to coast. Families loved this meal. Creamed chipped beef on toast proved dried meat was valuable. It saved families and filled empty bellies. Ham moderne came from Canadian kitchens where mothers made salads from leftovers. Chopped cooked ham mixed with gelatin and mayonnaise and vegetables. Nothing fancy, just making leftover ham into something special. The kitchen filled with savory salad smells. The texture was smooth and creamy with meat pieces inside. Kids loved the fancy look on special plates. Each slice felt like eating something rich people ate. Mothers molded this for celebrations when there was ham left over. Grandmas made ham moderne to impress people during hard times. From everywhere, families loved this salad. Ham moderne proved leftovers could become elegant. It saved families from wasting precious meat. Molded gelatin salad came from Canadian kitchens where mothers used jelly and leftovers, leftover meat and vegetables suspended in gelatin mold. Nothing wasted because everything was trapped inside clear jelly. The kitchen filled with savory jelly smells. The texture was wobbly and firm that wiggled on plates. Kids loved the transparent look that showed treasures inside. Each bite revealed what was hidden in the mold. Mothers made this when they had bits of meat and vegetables. Grandmas made salads to stretch tiny pieces far. From everywhere, families loved this salad. Molded gelatin salad proved anything could become something new. It saved families money during desperate hunger times. Corned beef and cabbage came from Irish kitchens and spread everywhere. Salted beef boiled slowly with cabbage, potatoes, and carrots. Nothing fancy, just boiled together into one pot. The kitchen is filled with salty beef and vegetable smells. The texture was tender meat and soft vegetables that fell apart. Kids loved the salty taste that meant a real meal. Each piece tasted like survival and family traditions. Mothers made this on Sundays when they had money for beef. Grandmas knew this meal connected families to their ancestors. From coast to coast, families loved this boiled dinner. Corned beef and cabbage proved boiling made everything taste good. It saved families and kept them connected to home. It was proof that heritage meals kept people alive. Liver and onions came from Canadian kitchens where mothers used affordable organ meat. Beef liver sliced thin and fried with onions made survival food. Nothing wasted because liver was cheap and full of strength. The kitchen filled with savory onion and liver smells. The texture was tender liver that melted on your tongue. Kids loved the rich taste that felt grown up. Each bite meant their bodies got strong from eating liver. Mothers fried this when meat money ran out. Grandma's new liver kept families healthy during hard times. From everywhere, families ate liver and onions. Liver and onions proved poor meat was valuable. It saved families from sickness and weakness. Fish cakes came from Maritime kitchens where mothers used dried cod. Dried salt cod mixed with mashed potatoes formed into cakes. Nothing wasted because fish scraps became meals. The kitchen is filled with fishy potato smells. The texture was crispy outside and soft inside when fried. Kids loved biting into hot fish cakes, fresh from the pan. Each bite tasted like the ocean and home together. Mothers fried these for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Grandmas made fish cakes from leftover cod. From Newfoundland everywhere, families loved fish cakes. Fish cakes proved fish and potatoes could make meals. It saved families money and fed them well. Bone broth soup came from Canadian kitchens where mothers boiled bones. Leftover meat bones boiled slowly with vegetables and water made soup. Nothing wasted because bones had flavor and strength. The kitchen filled with savory bone broth smells for hours. The texture was rich and thick that warmed your whole body. Kids loved the deep flavor that tasted like earth. Each spoonful meant nutrition and strength for their growing bodies. Mothers simmered bones for days to make healing soup. Grandmas knew bone broth cured sickness and weakness. From everywhere, families drank bone broth. Bone broth soup proved bones could make treasure. It saved families from hunger and sickness. Cabbage rolls came from Canadian kitchens where mothers made filling meals. Ground meat and rice wrapped inside cabbage leaves. Nothing fancy, just cabbage and meat making one meal. The kitchen is filled with savory cabbage and meat smells. The texture was soft cabbage wrapped around tender filling inside. Kids loved unwrapping each roll to find what was inside. Each roll meant one person had a full meal. Mothers rolled hundreds of cabbages for families. Grandmas made cabbage rolls for special dinners and celebrations. From everywhere, families loved cabbage rolls. Cabbage rolls proved cabbage could hold a whole meal. It saved families money and filled hungry bellies. Lard cakes came from Canadian kitchens where mothers baked with lard. Flour and sugar mixed with lard instead of butter made cakes. Nothing wasted because lard was cheap and available. The kitchen is filled with warm cake smells. The texture was a tender, crumbly cake that melted on your tongue. Kids loved cake even when it was made from lard. Each piece felt like a special treat during hard times. Mothers baked these for birthdays and Sunday dinners. Grandmas knew lard made good cakes when butter was gone. From everywhere, families loved lard cakes. Lard cakes proved you could bake without butter. It saved families money during desperate times. Eggless, milkless, butterless cake came from Canadian kitchens during hard times. Raisins and sugar and hot water made cake without eggs, milk butter. Nothing wasted because raisins provided sweetness and moisture. The kitchen filled with spiced raisin cake smells. The texture was moist and tender that stayed fresh for days. Kids loved the dark cake that looked fancy and tasted rich. Each slice meant mothers could still make cake in desperation. Mothers boiled raisins with spices to make cakes. Grandmas made these cakes when ingredients were impossible to find. From everywhere, families loved these cakes. Eggless cake proved you could make anything work. It saved families from thinking about what was missing. Poor man's stew came from Canadian kitchens where mothers made one-pot meals. Potatoes and onions and whatever meat was available boiled together. Nothing fancy, just whatever mothers had in the cupboard. The kitchen filled with savory stew, smells all afternoon. The texture was soft potatoes and tender meat floating in broth. Kids loved stew because everything mixed together tasted good. Each bowl meant warmth and fullness on cold nights. Mothers made this when money ran completely out. Grandmas knew stew could feed families on almost nothing. From everywhere, families loved poor man's stew. Poor man's stew proved simple things could be enough. It saved families during desperate hunger times. Turnip and potato mash came from Canadian kitchens where mothers used root vegetables. Turnips and potatoes boiled soft and mashed together with butter. Nothing wasted because root vegetables lasted through winter. The kitchen filled with earthy vegetable smells. The texture was smooth and creamy that melted on your plate. Kids loved the sweet taste of mashed turnips and potatoes. Each spoonful meant vegetables were keeping them healthy and strong. Mothers mashed these to go with every main dish. Grandmas knew root vegetables could survive all winter long. From everywhere, families loved turnip and potato mash. Turnip mash proved root vegetables could feed families. It saved families money during long, hard winters. It was proof that simple vegetables could be delicious. Baked beans came from Canadian kitchens where mothers cooked dried beans. Dried beans soaked and baked slow with molasses and salt pork. Nothing wasted because beans lasted forever and cost almost nothing. The kitchen filled with sweet molasses and bean smells. The texture was soft beans in thick molasses sauce. Kids loved the sweet and savory taste that felt special. Each bite meant protein and strength from humble beans. Mothers baked these in ovens for hours on Saturday. Grandmas made baked beans for Sunday dinners and celebrations. From everywhere, families loved baked beans. Baked beans proved beans could make meals worth eating. It saved families money and kept them healthy. Cornmeal mush came from Canadian kitchens where mothers made cheap breakfast food. Cornmeal boiled with water and milk and salt made mush. Nothing wasted because cornmeal was affordable and filling. The kitchen is filled with cornmeal smells in the morning. The texture was thick and creamy that stuck to your ribs. Kids loved cornmeal mush fried crispy in the morning. Each bowl meant a full belly to start the day. Mothers made this every single morning for families. Grandmas knew cornmeal could feed everyone for pennies. From everywhere, families ate cornmeal mush. Cornmeal mush proved grain could sustain people. It saved families during the hardest times.